Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Zoom for Lunch. Today, we're going to have Elaine Ptacek speak on Parkinson's and deep brain stimulation. There is hope. Elaine wants to tell us about what she's learned on her journey since she was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I hope you are inspired and given hope for your journey, no matter what it is, whether it's Parkinson's or whatever your journey is, that you will get hope from it. One of the books that she will be highlighting is Ending Parkinson's Disease. She'll be telling us some other things, but before we get started, let me just let you know that we'll be doing one of these at least once a month, and we'll do one in November, the first Wednesday of November, the first Wednesday of December, and then January and February. As COVID progresses, we'll make a decision whether we can be in person or what. But right now, we want to offer you a Zoom for lunch done by Elaine Ptacek. Come on in, Elaine.
Thank you, Melanie. That's good to be here. I had a mother who had Parkinson's and did not know that much about Parkinson's. Hers was more obvious when she was stressed or sick. She had slight tremor, but we both did the 23andMe and found out we do not carry the LARC gene, which is one of the key genes for Parkinson's. But they're now finding out that there are other things that they're looking for. And before I get started, I want to share just a couple of things. I just volunteered for a genetic group in Pennsylvania and was interviewed. I will be sent swabs for the inside of my mouth. They will be testing that, the genetic material, and then they will be able to tell me the 7 things that they're looking for besides the LARC gene, which I know I don't have. Will be the GABA, GBA, synuclein, and then there's 4 others that they are looking at. The more people they can get involved in research, the more information they're going to see. Michael J. Fox has been a big fan of mine. He's so resilient, and I watch a lot of his webinars that he has. He has one a month on Thursdays at 11 o'clock our time. And they are very, very good if you are interested. One thing that I am going to leave with Melanie, and I will pick it up from Leroy's printing today, will be a small flyer that has 10 of the symptoms that you can look for. They didn't have it printed when I stopped this morning before I came in, but if you are interested, I'll leave some at the library. You can pick them up, because oftentimes Parkinson's is very difficult to diagnose. And I can tell you from that, I saw a neurologist 7 or 8 years, and she kept saying it's anxiety from your job and lack of sleep. Well, those are 2 of the symptoms for Parkinson's. But I had tremor in the office with my right side, both in my leg and my hand. And that's kind of why I started seeing her. I had put that off a couple of years, saying, is this really happening? Or is she going to just kind of chuckle and say, there's nothing wrong with you? But as things got worse, how do I? Oops. Let me help her a second. Okay. Oh, that side. Okay. Okay. So Parkinson's and deep brain stimulation. You can either go with an SPN or a GPI stimulation that is inserted. And you can see from the little, hold on. Oh, we're going to give her some technical help here. This is part of our leads that are placed inside the brain. And those leads are connected within 1 millimeter of the area of the Parkinson's part of the brain that need to be installed. The leads are put in with 2 little caps at the top of the head, and those are like bumps that I will always have, and then the leads are held in place. When life gives you 100 reasons to break down and cry, show life that you have 1,000,000 reasons to smile and laugh and stay strong. The only disability in life is a bad attitude. Parkinson's disease is a neurological complex disease that affects the functionality of the brain, modifying the neural connectivity due to cell death, not brain death. There is no cure. All actual medications and procedures available today only help to improve your quality of life. And the two major neuropathological findings, you have a loss of pigmented dopamine neurons in the substantia nigra pars compact. And you could also have a presence of Lewy bodies. Parkinson's emerges slowly over weeks, months, and years. And the three cardinal signs are resting tremor, rigidity, and bradykinesia. Postural instability, balance impairment, happens a little later in years. And then carbidopa-levodopa is the commonly used medication to improve the symptoms early on. There are between 20 and 30 different types of diagnosis with Parkinson's. So do you see why it's been so difficult to find a cure when medications and the side effects are all different in different people? My diagnosis is Parkinson's with tremor and dystonia, and I'll identify some of these terms. Tremor is an involuntary quivering movement that shakes in your legs or hands and affects about 80% of the Parkinson's patients. Dystonia is an involuntary muscle contraction causing awkward, often painful postures. It is the third most common movement disorder in the hands, arms, legs, and feet. Can affect other parts of the body. And the other thing that I have a major issue with is the eyes. Now remember, this is a muscle disorder. So right now, my right eye, I wear prism glasses because the muscle in my right eye is starting to move in. And the prism glasses helps to keep it in the center. I also have a lot of blurred vision from medications. My eyes don't always track, double vision, irritation, and severe dry eye. But we continue to work on that. Like I told you, I saw a neurologist from 2007 to 2015. And magically, this neurosurgeon came to Colby. His name is Dr. Van Sickle, and he's from Littleton. And he wanted people to know that there is hope for patients with Parkinson's. And also at the time, I knew about neurologists. I didn't know about movement specialists, which are strictly trained in movement disorders beyond neurology. My DBS surgery was February 8th of 2019 at Littleton, it's supposed to be Littleton Adventist Hospital. Parkinson's disease creates a lot of symptoms. And I heard someone say they ran into someone they knew with Parkinson's and he just didn't say much. Well, that is part of Parkinson's. We also get that masked face where we don't have any facial expression. The longer you have Parkinson's, the worse it gets. Hand tremor, reduced arm swing, fixed elbows and wrists, back rigidity, stooped posture, tremor in the legs, slightly flexed knees and hips, and then a shuffling or a short gait. The most interesting thing that I learned this week is that there are 60,000 cases of Parkinson's, new cases, every year in the United States. It affects about 1% of the population age 60 and older. They do have early onset, and I have read about a 7-year-old having Parkinson's, but most of the time it happens in their 30s, 40s, and early 50s. And early 50s is not an early onset. If I would have been diagnosed instead of at 63, and I'd seen a doctor 8 years before, which I know I had Parkinson's at the time, mine would have been in the early 50s. 10%, and now they're saying 10 to 15% is genetic because they've now added the GBA, the alpha-synuclein, and then what you have is mutations of these genes, kind of like what they're seeing with COVID, mutations with that, and it's affecting different people. Some of the strains are different, and so same thing with Parkinson's. It does increase your risk of melanoma 4 times, or melanoma, 4 to 7 times higher in PD patients. It also increases your risk of diabetes 32%, because remember, it is muscles. You're talking about pancreas, you're talking about all the muscles. And so those are things that you have to watch for. I get checked every year for diabetes. I get checked. I am in fact seeing a skin cancer specialist tomorrow for some spots that need to be taken off, and we'll go from there. 1.5 times more common in men than women. Motor progression is usually faster in males, and we call early onset when they're younger than 40. Approximately 90%, 85 to 90% of the Parkinson's could be environmental. And that's what they're studying: pesticides, herbicides, well waters, and rural environment. But they do not know what causes it. The non-motor symptoms, the motor symptoms you see in us. The non-motor symptoms: cognitive impairment, depression and anxiety, sleep disturbances. If I would have been seeing a doctor and talking about my REM sleep, my night terrors, my dreaming, my walking in my sleep, talking, acting out my terrors and dreams. My husband said from the day we were married and I was 20 that he could have said if he'd have known, you ought to look into Parkinson's, because this is, that seems so unusual. And I don't have near as many dreams, REM sleep issues now, that I have really cut my working time and my stress. But the higher the stress, it seems like, and I could write a book about a lot of these dreams because they're so vivid when you wake up and you have to get your bearings to go back to sleep. Also, you have a lot of gastrointestinal abnormalities, constipation, irregular bowels, incontinence. Again, go back to the muscles. If the muscles don't work, and with bowel, you have problems emptying because the muscles don't work as well. Decrease in the facial expression and dexterity, general feeling of weakness and malaise and stiffness. DBS treats all of the motor symptoms of Parkinson's that I will talk about. Bradykinesia is slowness. The facial expressions, it helps. The rigidity and the tremor, the freezing, the fine and the coarse motor skills, it helps. But it does not help the postural instability, which is the balance, and not dementia. When I came into the library today, I had my hands full, and Wynn said to me, do you want to use the elevator? When I walked into the elevator, my balance was off, which is frequent. I usually like to be holding something, the wall, any type of things going upstairs. Anywhere I'm at, I like to have something always touch so I don't fall. And a little bit of information about Parkinson's. You don't die from Parkinson's. You die from falls, pneumonias, and smaller incidents that lead up to bigger things like that, respiratory issues. So let's talk a little bit about the muscles in the human body. If you look at the muscles, you will see it affects every muscle you have. And I talked a little bit about my struggles with it, and I see a neuro-ophthalmologist in Denver. I've gone now from 3 months, I'm moving to 4 because I'm finally getting some oil glands to produce some oil, and some of my symptoms are starting to decrease a little bit. But I have a rigid schedule, Restasis morning and night. I used to do drops all day long. I use heat and a vibrator at night for 15 minutes. I put ointment in and I put a mask on so that no air is touching my eyes to dry it out. And so that helps with all that. And it's obvious it's working because I've seen him about 2 years and things are now finally just getting a little bit better. Dead inside, but still tending to the garden. And I will tell you, when I was diagnosed in September of 15, the day before my birthday, I was working out at the college, pulling weeds in the rose garden between the pool and the dorms. And I had a lot of thinking time on my hands. And I decided I did not want to tackle this disease with anger. What good is that going to do? But to understand that I will have limited time to do what I need to do. And I've always wanted to volunteer in different things. And I'm doing plenty of that, but I know my time is probably limited. DBS gives you about 8 to 10 years of, it takes you back. And so in February, I will have had 2 years of DBS. And so I'm hoping I'll get the next 6 to 8 years in the kind of shape that I'm in. You have a window of opportunity with DBS, and that's one thing you do not want to miss. If you want it done between the stage 1 and stage 2, and you can see there are 5 stages, and it kind of shows you the progression of each one of those. To have DBS done, you have to have dopamine working to help the symptoms of tremor, balance, and all of that. And then you have to have a neuropsychological evaluation, which was, in my opinion, very intense. I had a headache after an hour. I didn't think I was going to get through it. And then the last couple of things were just answer yes or no. And so he sent those home with me. But luckily I passed the test. I feel like I've had some cognitive decline. And anytime I have anesthesia, it's much, much worse. And with DBS, you go in, you have to have an MRI because they've got to know exactly where they're going to put the leads in your brain and the cap. And then you have to be under during that MRI so you're not moving. Then the next day I had DBS, and that was about a 2.5-hour surgery, and it was bilateral. I had the leads put in my brain and brought down behind my ear, down into my chest, but the generators were not put in. Now they're doing that all in one, and then they hook it up about 10 days after things heal and the staples are out. So the window of opportunity is something, if you have Parkinson's, you do not want to forget. I was going to Kansas City, and he was not ready to do DBS. But Dr. Van Sickle, luckily, came back to Colby 3 years later, and I went to his presentation, and he said to me, "How much medication are you on?" And I was taking about 20 pills at that time a day. Plus, I was doing extended release at night to get through the night because my dystonia was always worse when I relaxed. And for dystonia, if you hit your crazy bone and it went crooked backwards or ways it shouldn't go, that's what dystonia is. and it is very painful. Right now, mine is pretty much under control, taking dopamine at night and extended release. If it starts to get worse, I can increase a Rytary pill and take a higher dose. But right now, I'm trying to take as little medication as possible because the side effects are very difficult. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you are not. Forget the day's trouble, remember the day's blessings. Dr. Van Sickle, when he was in Colby, I walked up to him after his presentation and I said, I have had resting tremors through your hour presentation. And he said, walk for me. He flipped my arm down because you have cogwheel issues in your joints. And he said, you need to come see me. I was still seeing the neurologist, the other neurologist. And he said, you are in pretty good physical condition, which amazes me that you've been doing this for 8 years and haven't gotten a diagnosis. So I called his office and they set up an appointment. I saw him in August in Colby, Kansas. And I had an appointment and a diagnosis on September the 18th in Littleton with this neurosurgeon who did my surgery. A DAT scan is a nuclear medicine exam which combines a small amount of radioisotope with a pharmaceutical that is targeted. Now, to be honest with you, it's cocaine. Never had any drugs in my life, but I got a small dose of cocaine because that's what kicks the frontal parts of the brain into gear to find out what's going on. And it's a machine that looks like you lay on a real skinny table, they strap you in, and it looks like a sail going around your head. And it takes pictures of your brain, and they can tell you Parkinson's with Lewy bodies, Parkinson's. They can give you more information from that exam. I went to Denver and had my DAT scan done. And I'm sure it looked, some of them might look like this, but mine looked like a sail that went over my head. And it was interesting. I started in the morning and they give you apple juice. If you have thyroid issues, they can't give you apple juice and they alter that just a little bit. But if you want to fly, you have to give up the things that are weighing you down. And like I said, Dr. Van Sickle, the neurosurgeon, for me, he is my miracle worker. He went to school, became a bioengineer first. And then he became a doctor. His energy is directed not into research about Parkinson's, but about the machines to use for people that have cancers of the brain, have Parkinson's issues, DAT scans. He built a robot that he uses that gets him within 1 millimeter that's screwed into the top of your head. And it decreases the time. You have 3 things that could be dangerous anytime someone opens up your brain: a stroke, a brain bleed, or an infection. The less time they're in there, the less you decrease. Dr. Van Sickle's, and this is him, Dr. Van Sickle's infection rate is 2.5 compared to around the world at 15%. So doctors are at all levels, but his rate, when I went in to see him and asked him, those were the questions. What's your infection rate? What is your stroke rate? What is your bleed rate? Now, when they did my MRI, the day before, he found out that I'd had a concussion and a brain bleed the day before surgery. He did not know if it was recent or if it was happened a long time ago. But he could not risk, that's why they do MRIs, he could not risk going through that. So he had to go around it to get the lead in on the side. So they find out all kinds. In August of 19, Dr. Van Sickle helped develop this machine that they use during surgery, which is called the Omnitom, but it's a CAT scan. I had mine asleep with his robotic tool he made, and it's fascinating. He's just fascinating. He's very brilliant, but he's easy to visit with. Ken came with me. We talked about all kinds of things. Ken's not a social butterfly like I am, but he answered all his questions, made sure that he was included in everything. So this is kind of the timeline. They do a candidate screening. They do pre-surgery, and that's the MRI, and then they put in the lead placements and the IPG implants, and that's called your generators. And then a couple weeks later, they do the first programming and the follow-up. Now, they don't get it right the first time. When I went in, I have such a high pain tolerance that she kept turning me up, and I didn't feel anything. And then when I didn't feel something, I was ready to throw up because it was way too high. So it is not very high now. I do not have to charge my remote and batteries. I have self-charging, and when they run out of electricity, I'll go in and just have the generators replaced. 5 to 7 years, it could be 8 to 10 years, depending on how high your generators are. So this is deep brain stimulation. It helps to control the tremors and chronic movements. I have seen slides of people that they took that have been on Michael J. Fox, on Dave Spinney, on Parkinson's Association of the Rockies. They have pictures and videos of people, what they look like before and the difference after DBS. It is truly amazing. These are the leads. They're about 1/8 of an inch or smaller. And then that's the cap that they put in your head. Then they connect all that right here behind the ear. And for me, I had Infinity, which is a system for Abbott, but you could have Abbott, Boston Scientific, or Medtronic. Stimulators and the electrical pauses. And when I came back from surgery, everybody said, well, how was it? I said, do I look like the bionic woman? I feel like it because I feel so much better after they started turning the generators on. Some of the issues that people don't see is the urological and sexual dysfunction. Again, muscles, 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 muscles. The pain, the fatigue, the orthostatic or hypertension, speech volume swallowing, dysphagia, choking, orthostatic, oh, I guess I have that twice, and the blank facial expression. The fall before I had this done in February, I was in speech therapy to increase the volume of my voice. I was also in therapy for choking on, I couldn't cut my meat, and I could not believe how much she helped me. So when I went into surgery, most of those muscles were pretty strong because they teach you how to sing high and low, use all those muscles in your throat, and the speech therapist was very helpful. The area of stress, anxiety, and sleep disorders. Neuro, damaged cyclical chain and the progression of Parkinson's disease. You will not get better. Some people progress at a very slow rate. Some people progress at a very fast rate. Oh, me? Oh no. I'm in the prime of my life. I'm somewhat between the young and the restless and the old and the senseless. And I think that definitely applies to me. A man tried to sell me a coffin today. I said, that's the last thing I need. Right now, I want to talk about a group that we have developed. We have started a Parkinson's group for the 9 counties in Northwest Kansas. And we started meeting the end of July. We meet every other Thursday at 2 o'clock at the Fireside Lounge. And so our next meeting will be October 22nd. Right now, we are working on a walk, a run, and a bike-a-thon to raise our first monies for individuals with Parkinson's or caregivers. We started this group with individuals that are either caretakers or Parkinson's. Because we don't know who we are, we had a flyer developed by one of the daughter-in-laws, and we are getting this out to all the hospitals, the clinics, the libraries, the senior centers, health departments, anywhere that we can think of, because they're going to have to contact us because doctors, because of HIPAA, cannot tell us who they are. And so we are right now, we have talked to Tyson and Egan about using the event center in April. I did visit with the chief of police about a route for bikes. If it snows out that Saturday on the 17th, we will probably move it back. But we are going to do both virtual and in person. The virtual will allow you to, and you will get a team, and we will be sending that out to all of our contacts and advertising that. Our Facebook page is not set up yet, but it will be set up. And then we will be having you get a team, stating how much money you want to raise, and then you will decide if you want to walk the 5K, if you want to run the 5K, or if you want to ride the bike 5 miles or 10. And those will all be in separate places. The city said they would probably be able to help us with cones and some things like that as we get set up. That sounds like a long ways away, but we are looking for sponsors now and have started getting sponsors. We will be putting up some banners in every community and a couple in Thomas County that will have all the sponsors' names on. We hope to maybe place one at the college. I haven't asked that yet, but I'm hoping that we could place one there and across the way at Rob Stidham's place, Earthworks, so that you see them going both ways. Most people drive out that way on range during their driving time or picking up food or whatever. And so we'll have 2 probably put up in February, and then, like I say, our date's going to be the 17th. We're really excited about it because Parkinson's Month is April, and we're working with Live Well of Thomas County. We're working also with the Thomas County Coalition. And then yesterday I dropped a deal by to see if they would put in the time and where they advertise the nonprofits and information, if they would put the time in and let people know when we're meeting, so that we can get more people either interested in Parkinson's or that has Parkinson's or that are caretakers. So I'm really excited about this, and we are making slow headway, but we are making progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Just wanted to say thank you so much, and the library is working with Elaine too to make sure we get the message out. So when I get the, we can post a flyer for you about this, about their meetings monthly, and then when she gets the diagnosis, the page that says, you know, these are some of the symptoms, we'll put that out on the library's Facebook page too. When they get more information about the April walkathon and getting that, we'll help them get that done too. We don't always do that, but I believe that we are here to help inform people and help people with issues in their lives, and we're a library. And so one of the things we do is provide resources. Elaine happens to be an in-person resource that we have. I mean, how many communities have somebody who's done deep brain stimulation, who's walked through Parkinson's, who can actually understand and help you realize what's going on in your life or your loved one's life. And so for me, she is a wonderful resource and asset we have in Colby, and her energy level is wonderful. She asked us to get this book, Ending Parkinson's Disease. We have it. Say you can't read, you have trouble with reading, listen to it. And then she brought some other books that I know that they'll share in their group also. But I just want you to know that if you have any questions about it, you can contact the library if you can't get a hold of Elaine, and we'll direct you to them and to their group. So thank you very much for coming today, and we hope you enjoyed this talk.